Do you ever find yourself in a room with your advisor and have no idea what to say? Well, you're not alone. So today we are discussing what you could and actually what you should be discussing during your meetings with your grad advisor. Sometimes it's just really hard to know how to get the ball rolling or what is it that you're supposed to do to start the conversation. And so the first thing that I would suggest that you'd bring up during your meetings with your grad advisor is just basic updates or conversations about your progress. So this way, instead of feeling like you need to predict what's going on or lead the conversation, especially if you are a first year or just somebody who's genuinely unfamiliar with the graduate process, it takes away the pressure of knowing what to say or the right things to do. So instead of having to think ahead, you're actually just kind of regurgitating or reflecting back on the things that you've already done. So if you're like a first year and you feel like you haven't done any scholarly work or you're not doing anything that requires updates, it's totally appropriate to talk about what classes are you taking? What readings are you doing? Are there any readings that were particularly interesting to you or helpful for you? Have you done any guest lectures or attended any guest lectures rather? Or were there any particular presentations or videos in your classes that were interesting? By talking about things that you're doing or things that are interesting you, you're able to help your grad advisor understand a little bit more about you, your interests, and your research without having all of the pressure to say the right thing. For graduate students who are a little farther in the process, providing updates or progress updates are really helpful because your grad advisors, and you'll probably hear this a lot in this video, but they're advising a lot of different students. So by presenting information to them about where you're at and what you've already done, it helps them keep track of what's going on and how to support you or what are the things or spaces you are at in your graduate process. But it also helps them prepare if you need them to write letters of recommendation, or helps them understand what other opportunities that you may not even know exist, but they know with their magical faculty experience. And so by giving them that information, they can be thinking ahead for you and help guide the conversation in that way. So providing updates in progress can feel a little like, oh, that's kind of busy work or not that important, but actually it's super important because it makes sure that everybody in the room is on the same page and understands where you have been so you can start working together to prepare where you want to go. So the next thing you want to make sure you are talking about in your grad mentor meetings or your faculty meetings is your goals. Now, talking about your goals is actually something that I am actively trying to improve with my own conversation with my own committee members and chair. And here is why. Faculty members, grad advisors are usually advising a lot of graduate students, and it's kind of expected that we start to run together or where we're going, especially if we're all in the same department or same major. All of our goals or ideas or research may blend a little. And so it's important that when you are meeting with your faculty, you want to create some type of memory or reinforce what matters most to you so your faculty are very aware and can try to remember or have some type of notes about your goals. So it's super important to be explicit, consistent, and transparent with your goals. And when I say consistent, I don't necessarily mean have the same exact goals, but rather to bring them up often and to have the conversation with your faculty and make sure that they understand what are your goals. And this is because you don't know what you don't know. And faculty do have a large network of connections, of experiences, of awareness of what exists out there. And so if you're not explicit about your goals, what you want to do, where you want to go, and this can be short-term goals like publishing or long-term goals like where you want to work, then your faculty can't necessarily help you as much as maybe you would like. I also feel like for faculty, if they have a graduate student that is very goal-oriented and very aware of what their goal is, it's much easier for them to mentor us because now they know that you have an end goal that they can think through the steps with you. And so if you are somebody coming in and saying, well, I don't really know, or don't talk about your goals, then they may not know what direction you want to go. And thus they may not give you any guidance, or the guidance that they give you is really generic or not useful. So by bringing up your particular goals, again, professional, academic, short-term, long-term, and making sure that you're having these conversations with your faculty consistently, it can really help you get to where you want to go. Now, this isn't to say that when you say your goals, your faculty are just going to magically make them all happen. And in some cases, cases, some faculty, even when you are explicit and clear and transparent about your goals, still may not help you. And in those cases, you may need to look for a new faculty advisor. But for the most part, I think it's easy to say or good to say that if you are sharing your goals and being in good conversation and communication with your faculty, most good graduate mentors or grad advisors are going to do their best to support you and to get you to where you want to go. And this directly connects to my next thing that you should be discussing with your faculty mentor, with your grad advisor when you are in meetings. And that is possible opportunities. Now, of course, this conversation or this part of the conversation could be sparked by your goals, which is why they're connected, but it's also completely possible for you as a graduate student to walk into the meeting and just frankly ask, do you know any possible opportunities for me? And you can say, for me to develop professionally, academically, what have you. But it's important to be explicit and to ask this question because I found, or I think I've come to the realization that a lack of faculty may not know what your capacity is, or just are so wrapped up in their research and their world that they may not be thinking about you all the time. And so by asking this question, do you know any possible opportunities for me? You're giving them the opportunity to pause and think and reflect, and then try to help you get possible opportunities. Asking this question also signals to your faculty mentor, your grad advisor, that you are actively looking for extracurricular or additional academic progress things to help you get to where you want to go. And so that also lets them know that when they come across other opportunities, you will be a student that is receptive. So it's important to have, again, good communication with your faculty, but also being as explicit as you can and asking these types of questions in your graduate meetings so you can discuss what do opportunities look like for you, or they can be more comfortable or start sharing opportunities with you so you can start pushing forward into your grad program in the direction that you think is best, or with the finances or the financial support that you would need to continue to progress. Something else that you can do within your graduate advisor meetings is brainstorm. And this is actually the most exciting one to me because a lot of development for my research and my dissertation project came from just sitting down and sipping tea with my advisor and talking and brainstorming. So for meetings like this, you could just email your advisor and say, hey, I would love to meet with you for 30 minutes or for 45 minutes to discuss my research or to workshop this question or to brainstorm possibilities for my research. Do you have availability? And then in these meetings or these conversations, they're way more casual, they're way more kind of free flowing, and just gives you an opportunity to think out loud and to think through your research project with somebody else who is invested in your discipline or field, or just invested in you as a person. Now, of course, I understand these meetings at first can be quite intimidating because you don't want to feel dumb or you don't want to say something that makes you seem like you don't know what you're talking about. And so it is important that you are building rapport with your faculty advisor and developing a relationship with them to help ease that type of intimidation or uneasiness or discomfort. But I will say the more that you have these brainstorming sessions, the more casual and less intense they become. And I'm always the type of person who would prefer to make a mistake in a casual setting or a low stakes setting where there's not grades or I don't have to pass or fail a certain thing. And instead, where if I do say something dumb, there's really no consequences except for a little bit of embarrassment. So I understand that that may be something that you have to work through, but it is a great opportunity to build on your research and to move a little bit faster throughout your program because you are constantly thinking through your research questions with somebody who is an expert in the field. In fact, this is actually how I found my case studies for my dissertation projects and why I will be doing field work in 2 different countries in the upcoming year is because I would sit down and talk with my advisor. So again, you never know what opportunities come from these brainstorming sessions, and they're a lot more casual and a lot less cutthroat, and they help you progress through your project and build a relationship with your faculty. Another important discussion that you should be having within these grad advisor meetings is really bringing up and discussing your questions and major concerns. Meetings with your advisor are a great time to troubleshoot, problem solve, find solutions to parts of your graduate experience that are feeling particularly difficult, situations or administrative issues that may be impacting your progress or experience, and even depending on your rapport or how comfortable you are with your faculty even certain personal problems like childcare or stress or anxiety. And so when you are approaching your grad advisor meetings, it's important to remember they don't necessarily have to be all research focused. Instead, make sure that you are bringing up concerns about the program or your classes or your research project, or even possible communication or problems with y'all's relationship. This is a great time to really unpack and mediate issues early on so they don't blow up and become a larger issue later on in your graduate process when you're trying to do something that's really important or really stressful. Now, this next one may be like duh to a lot of us, but for me, it wasn't something that I thought about talking about until I was way later into my program, and that is them. It is totally appropriate and in some cases necessary to ask your faculty advisor about themselves. And I'm not just saying their research or, their academic experiences or career, but rather them, like what is their favorite snack or their favorite movie, or where did they grow up? Grad advisor relationships are just that, relationships. And so to have all of these other hard questions about, things that may be bothering you or how to find opportunities or funding or progress and all of that jazz can get much easier the closer and more familiar you are with each other. And so by asking questions and getting to know your faculty advisor as a person and not just as a resource for you or as a faculty, then you can develop an experience or create a relationship that is way more organic and invested in natural than something that is very prescriptive and academic and kind of sterile. This also gives you an opportunity to talk more about yourself so your faculty mentor can get to know you as well. Again, these relationships are a two-way street, and it's important to really invest and care about your faculty so they can also invest and care about you. Now, of course, some faculty are going to be more or less open, and you even may be more or less open depending on the faculty or the circumstances. So it's important when you are having these conversations that you are comfortable with creating boundaries and also respecting and recognizing boundaries. And that way you can make sure that your relationship is growing naturally and healthily. Now, if you're somebody who's really interested in trying to figure out if your relationship with your faculty is healthy, I would check out my video where I discuss 5 things you should ask to make sure that you have a healthy relationship with your faculty. If you found at least 2 things useful, hit a thumbs up so YouTube knows that this is a good video and shares it with others. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns, leave them in the comments below. Your support helps a small YouTuber like me continue to grow. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.